It's March 9th, 2026, and exactly 4 hours ago, at 8:42 UTC, something happened that the modern world has never experienced before. Picture this. In low Earth orbit, over 6,400 active Starlink satellites are circling the planet, forming the backbone of global communication. These machines operate independently, each with its own power system, orbital plane, and multiple fail-safes. Statistically, the chance of even two failing at the same exact second is 1 in 4.7 billion. The probability of 50 simultaneously failing? Practically zero. Yet, at 8:42 UTC, NASA's Deep Space Network detected a sudden, inexplicable surge, and for exactly 90 seconds, every single Starlink satellite went dark. They didn't crash, they didn't explode, they powered down all at once. The largest constellation in human history had executed a synchronized shutdown, bypassing military-grade encryption, SpaceX's control systems, and even the fundamental laws of probability. And the trigger? It didn't come from a hacker in a basement or a solar flare. No, the signal came from 240 million kilometers away from the object we've been tracking for months, known as 3I Atlas. When the satellites came back online at 8 hours 43 minutes and 30 seconds UTC, they weren't the same. Telemetry had changed, orientation had shifted. I analyzed the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics data logs and studied carrier wave frequencies captured by the Green Bank telescope. Natural objects don't behave like switchboards. Comets don't send commands to specific hardware. Yet something out there reached into our infrastructure with terrifying precision. Think about the implications. If an object can remotely control a hardened satellite network from beyond Mars, what else could it reach? What else could it manipulate? The data defies all cometary physics models. 3I Atlas isn't just a rock tumbling through space, it suggests agency. For the last 3 months, we tracked its trajectory, debated its origin, and analyzed its spectrum, believing we were passive observers. But now, the equation has changed. We aren't watching 3I Atlas anymore. It is watching us, and it has begun to interact. To understand the scale, consider this. We're not talking about a router glitch. At 8:42 UTC, global internet monitoring stations from Cloudflare in San Francisco to NetBlocks in London registered an almost instantaneous drop in traffic. Terabytes of data vanished. This wasn't a cut fiber optic cable under the ocean. This was orbital. Imagine a conductor standing before an orchestra of 6,400 musicians, raising a baton, and every musician stops mid-note at the exact microsecond. That is what happened to the Starlink constellation. SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, reported a Class 4 telemetry loss. Normally, when a satellite fails, it drifts, tumbles, and slowly dies as its solar panels misalign. Not today. At 8:42 UTC, the satellites received an external command to enter Safe Mode Level 5, a deep sleep protocol reserved for extreme solar storms. Yet the sun was calm. Geomagnetic activity was baseline 0. No storm, no human signal. Then the question hits. Where did this command come from? To hack even one satellite requires a master key. To hack 6,000 simultaneously, you'd need computational power rivaling Earth's fastest supercomputers. Yet, 3 independent agencies confirmed the source. NASA's DSS-43 antenna in Australia triangulated the signal directly to 3I Atlas. The European Space Agency's Gaia Observatory detected a gravitational microlensing anomaly from the same vector. Starlink operational logs confirmed a priority override was received exactly when the blackout occurred. 3 methods, 3 independent sources, 1 conclusion. 3I Atlas spoke, and our technology obeyed. But the signal itself is stranger still. Cosmic noise is chaotic, random, a shotgun blast of particles. This wasn't noise. The Green Bank telescope detected a narrowband transmission precisely in the 12-18 GHz range, the exact operating frequency of Starlink downlinks. A natural comet cannot produce a coherent, targeted signal that overrides human telecommunications. The odds of this happening naturally? 0. It's as if a monkey typed Shakespeare by accident. And then, at 8 hours, 43 minutes, and 30 seconds, UTC, the satellites returned online, not randomly, not struggling to orient themselves, but in perfect synchronization, away from the northern hemisphere, sweeping south. This isn't an attack, it's a test. Someone, or something, flipped the switch on our planetary network, waited 90 seconds, and flipped it back on. And the data shows this is just the beginning. When the Starlink satellites powered back on at 8 hours 43 minutes and 30 seconds UTC, they didn't simply resume their normal functions. Thousands of machines across low Earth orbit performed maneuvers that SpaceX had never programmed. Each satellite turned, tilting its sensors away from Earth and toward a single patch of deep space. This wasn't random, it was precise. It required coordination, energy, and propellant across thousands of satellites, all acting in unison. They weren't observing our planet, they were observing the object they had just received a signal from. 3I, Atlas. Pause for a moment, consider the implications. A global communication network designed to beam internet to homes, schools, and businesses had collectively turned its gaze away from Earth. They became our eyes, focusing on something 240 million kilometers away. This is no ordinary celestial object. Ground-based optical telescopes see comets as blurry blobs. Hubble produces pixelated images, but when 6,400 cameras in orbit combined their observations through interferometry, they revealed something completely unexpected. 3I, Atlas is not a comet. It is a geometric structure, perfect right angles, uniform surfaces absorbing nearly 99.9% of light. A dark rectangular anomaly, roughly 4 kilometers long, rotating on a single axis with mechanical precision. Rocks don't behave this way. Comets don't maintain stabilized rotation across millions of years without wobbling. Maintaining this spin requires internal stabilization, gyroscopes, or similar mechanisms. It requires engineering. And then the extraordinary happened. At 8:45 UTC, just minutes after the satellites had oriented themselves toward 3I, Atlas, Earth's own satellites transmitted a response, a high-powered, directed burst of data aimed back at the object. The transmission wasn't random. It contained a series of prime numbers followed by the value of pi to 1,000 decimal places. This is the universal language of intelligence, a greeting, a statement of presence, an acknowledgement that we are here. But here's the critical part. Humans didn't program this. NASA didn't authorize it. SpaceX didn't approve it. The satellites executed it on their own. If this is a hack, it is the most sophisticated artificial intelligence ever deployed. If this is natural, then our understanding of physics is fundamentally incomplete. If this is contact, then we are no longer alone in the cosmos. Within 30 minutes of the event, the European Space Agency went dark. NASA cut live feeds from the International Space Station, something unprecedented in 4 decades of continuous human spaceflight. The secrecy alone signals the extraordinary magnitude of this encounter. The first 90 seconds revealed the scale. A global satellite network powered down, reoriented, and transmitted a universal greeting without human input. But the conversation didn't stop there. Data collected by Starlink's optical sensors confirmed something even more astonishing. The object had just changed its behavior in response. 3. I, Atlas, which had been traveling on a hyperbolic trajectory at 47 kilometers per second, meant to exit the solar system forever, suddenly decelerated. Doppler data shifted from red to blue. In the vacuum of space, objects do not break on their own. Engines or intent are required. This is where physics bends. If 3I, Atlas is natural, Newton's laws have just been violated. If technological, then our first handshake succeeded. We spoke, it listened, and now it's adjusting its trajectory toward Earth not to collide, but to enter a high Earth orbit. The models run by the Center for Near-Earth Object Studies confirm this new orbit. The implications are staggering. This is no longer a distant visitor. This is a potential neighbor, moving closer to study or interact with us. Observers around the globe have mobilized. Every radio telescope is trained on its path. The Very Large Array in New Mexico is capturing real-time signals. The FAST telescope in China is locked in on the object's communications. In the next 72 hours, 3I, Atlas will cross Mars's orbit. Scientists will monitor whether it continues deceleration, whether it synchronizes speed with Earth's rotation, and whether it is adjusting trajectory with purpose. What began as a 90-second blackout has become humanity's first verified interaction with an intelligent extraterrestrial artifact. From the initial shutdown to the reorientation to the autonomous transmission of mathematical signals, and now the deceleration of a hyperbolic interstellar object, we are witnessing events that redefine every assumption about our place in the universe. And yet, one question remains. Why did 3I, Atlas, stop moving when it did? The answer to that will define the next chapter of this encounter, and it will determine everything humanity understands about interstellar technology, intelligence, and the mechanics of the cosmos. To truly grasp what just occurred, we have to examine the energy involved. Consider this. A signal traveling from 3I, Atlas, to Earth covers roughly 240 million kilometers. According to the inverse square law, energy spreads out with distance. A flashlight aimed at the moon is faint by the time it arrives. A signal from an interstellar object should be no more than a whisper against the cosmic background. Yet, the energy that hit the Green Bank telescope at 8:42 UTC wasn't subtle, it was overwhelming. The sensors were saturated. It was as if a cosmic shout had pierced the void of space, momentarily blinding humanity's most sensitive receivers. Generating that kind of signal across interstellar distances requires an energy source on the scale of a small nuclear reactor. Comets are made of ice and dust. They cannot produce energy remotely equivalent to a reactor. That alone challenges every natural explanation. But the signal's sophistication is equally extraordinary. It wasn't a brute force attempt to jam satellites. It didn't rely on noise or randomness. It spoke the satellite's own language. The external command followed the correct protocol headers and handshake sequences used by SpaceX's network. Think about that. A celestial object, formerly classified as a comet, somehow understood proprietary encryption designed by humans and implemented in hardware deployed only since 2002. How could it know? There are only two possibilities. Either this is the most improbable coincidence in scientific history, or 3I. Atlas has been observing us for months, quietly listening to our transmissions, our radar, our satellite communications. In that time, it could have learned our digital language and systems, effectively hacking Earth's infrastructure without ever approaching the planet. When the satellites turned themselves toward 3I, Atlas, they didn't just observe, they acted. The combined optical data from thousands of satellites created an image of the object in unprecedented resolution. Ground-based telescopes cannot match this clarity. Hubble sees it as a blur. Space-based interferometry revealed distinct edges, precise angles, and surfaces absorbing almost all incoming light. This is not random geometry, it is engineered. A natural object simply cannot form such patterns with mechanical precision and maintain rotation along a single axis for millions of years. At 8:45 UTC, just after the satellites locked onto 3I, Atlas, they transmitted a signal back, a complex mathematical sequence. Prime numbers, followed by the digits of pi to 1,000 decimal places. This is the universal language of intelligence, a declaration that we exist and are observing. But here's the crucial part. Humans didn't program it. The satellites executed it autonomously. If this is artificial intelligence, it represents a level of sophistication that exceeds anything we've ever deployed. If natural, then physics, as we know it, is fundamentally incomplete. The global implications are staggering. Within 30 minutes of the event, multiple space agencies went into secrecy protocols. European Space Agency communications blacked out. NASA cut the live feed from the International Space Station. Only a handful of events in human history have prompted this level of immediate and coordinated secrecy. Whatever 3I, Atlas is, it has triggered an extraordinary response from humanity's most advanced institutions. Then there's the movement of the object itself. Up until the signal from our satellites reached it, 3I, Atlas was traveling on a hyperbolic path at 47 kilometers per second, leaving our solar system. But immediately after receiving the transmission, its velocity changed. Doppler data shifted from red to blue, indicating deceleration. In the vacuum of space, objects don't slow down without engines or intent. Either this is a technological artifact or the laws of physics just behaved in a way we cannot currently explain. The Center for Near-Earth Object Studies has recalculated its trajectory. 3I, Atlas is no longer on an escape path. Its new trajectory points toward a potential high Earth orbit insertion. The handshake worked. We sent a signal, it responded, and now it is adjusting its course to study us, or at the very least, investigate the source of the transmission. The scale of what humanity is witnessing is unparalleled. If it reaches Earth orbit, this will become the most significant event in human history, rewriting astronomy, physics, and our understanding of life itself. And yet, there's still so much uncertainty. How exactly did it generate the energy to reach Earth? How did it decode our encryption and protocols? How does it maintain its mechanical stability with perfect rotation over millions of years? These questions push the limits of science, engineering, and imagination. They also set the stage for what comes next. Observation, calculation, and perhaps the first direct encounter with an intelligent interstellar artifact. Once the satellites reoriented themselves toward 3I, Atlas, the scale of the maneuver became clear. We're not talking about a single camera shifting or a handful of sensors adjusting. Every one of the 6,400 active Starlink satellites performed a synchronized tilt, raising their primary receivers 14 degrees away from Earth and toward the predicted position of 3I, Atlas in 3 days. This isn't a random drift caused by gravity or inertia. It required precise energy management, calculated thrust from Hall effect thrusters, and impeccable coordination across thousands of machines. The sheer logistical feat is staggering. Think about what this implies. Our own satellites were effectively hijacked to observe a distant object. Humanity's eyes in orbit, designed to serve our communications, were turned to study something that may not even be naturally occurring. When we plotted the vectors, they all converged on the exact coordinate where 3I, Atlas, would be days from now. This precision confirms intent. It suggests that the object's signal wasn't just an interruption. It was a directive, a calculated interaction with our technology to ensure it was seen and monitored. The consequences of that interaction are profound. Immediately after the tilt, SpaceX's internal servers received a massive data dump from the fleet. An anonymous source within the Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirmed what the data contained. These satellites had captured a composite image of 3I, Atlas with resolution far exceeding anything achievable from Earth. Ground-based telescopes could only produce a blur. Hubble saw a pixelated shape, but with orbital interferometry combining thousands of perspectives, we now have a level of detail that reveals a geometric, engineered structure. This isn't speculation. The structure exhibits right angles, flat non-reflective surfaces that absorb 99.9% of light, and a rotation perfectly aligned with the plane of the solar system. Natural objects simply do not behave this way. A rock tumbling through space cannot maintain mechanical stability for millions of years without internal gyroscopic systems. Yet the data shows exactly that. The object rotates on a single axis, with no wobble, at speeds consistent with engineered stabilization. The more we analyze, the more 3I, Atlas appears less like a comet and more like a deliberately constructed artifact. Then comes the response. 1 minute after the satellites locked on, they transmitted a high-powered, coherent signal back at 3I Atlas. This wasn't random interference or a basic beacon. It was a carefully structured sequence, prime numbers followed by pi to the 1000th decimal. In scientific terms, it is the universal declaration of intelligence, a deliberate "we are here" message. But the stunning detail is that humans didn't program it. The satellites, autonomously executing this response, acted independently of NASA or SpaceX authorization. If this is a natural phenomenon, it defies physics. If it is artificial, it represents the most sophisticated AI interaction humanity has ever witnessed. The global response escalated rapidly. Within 30 minutes, the European Space Agency entered a communications blackout. NASA cut the live feed from the International Space Station, something that had never happened in 40 years. This level of secrecy underscores the magnitude of the event. Governments and agencies recognize the implications, even if the public is left unaware. The world is watching quietly, but the clock is ticking. Meanwhile, the trajectory of 3I, Atlas itself, has shifted dramatically. Up until the satellite handshake, it was moving on a hyperbolic path at 47 kilometers per second, set to exit the solar system. But immediately after receiving the Earthbound signal, Doppler data revealed deceleration. Redshift became blueshift. Objects in the vacuum of space do not slow without engines. Either this is evidence of advanced propulsion or intent. Calculations from the Center for Near-Earth Object Studies now predict a potential high Earth orbit insertion rather than a flyby. The object is adjusting its path in response to our signal. This sequence, shutdown, reorientation, autonomous communication, trajectory adjustment, represents a level of interaction never before recorded in human history. For the first time, a human-made system and an interstellar object have communicated indirectly, each influencing the other in measurable ways. The implications stretch across physics, engineering, astronomy, and even philosophy. It forces us to reconsider our understanding of intelligence, both natural and artificial, and to ask, what else could be interacting with us in the cosmos without our awareness? At this point, every major radio telescope is trained on the predicted path of 3I Atlas. The Very Large Array in New Mexico, FAST in China, observatories across Europe and South America, they are all actively monitoring, recording every electromagnetic ripple, every gravitational nuance, every data packet the satellites send. For the next 72 hours, the world will be watching a silent dialogue unfold between humanity and an object of unknown origin. Every observation, every calculation, and every hypothesis will shape the understanding of an event that could redefine our place in the universe. As the satellites locked their gaze on 3I, Atlas, the data began pouring in at a rate never before recorded. Thousands of optical sensors, infrared cameras, and communication arrays were feeding a live stream of information back to Earth, and the picture that emerged was unlike anything in our catalogs. The composite image, built from the overlapping perspectives of 6,400 satellites, revealed an object with hard, geometric edges and an apparent internal structure, something far beyond a simple comet or asteroid. Its surface was dark, almost perfectly non-reflective, absorbing virtually all light. Shadows fell at right angles, suggesting architecture, not chaos. The probability of this occurring naturally is effectively zero. What makes this moment even more astounding is that the object is rotating, but in a way that indicates deliberate stabilization. It spins along a single axis aligned almost perfectly with the plane of the solar system, with no wobble, no drift. Rocks do not spin like this for millions of years. The physics alone defy everything we know about natural celestial mechanics. To maintain this precision requires internal gyroscopes or some equivalent technology mechanisms that imply advanced engineering. And yet, 3I, Atlas is not simply spinning, it is waiting, observing, responding. Then came the transmission from the satellites. A directed burst of data, mathematically structured, was sent from Earth's orbit to the coordinates of 3I, Atlas. Prime numbers, followed by pi calculated to thousands of decimal places, an unambiguous greeting, a signal of intelligence. But here's the kicker. The satellites did this autonomously. Neither SpaceX nor NASA authorized the transmission. This implies that the system itself recognized the object as a target for communication. If this is a natural phenomenon, the satellite's behavior is inexplicable. If artificial, it represents a level of artificial intelligence interaction that exceeds anything humanity has previously deployed. Within minutes, global space agencies reacted. European observatories went dark, NASA cut feeds from the ISS, and internal communications moved to highly secure channels. The level of operational secrecy is unprecedented in modern space exploration. Even now, the public is unaware of the full scope of the event. Yet the data continues to stream, offering tantalizing glimpses of an interstellar presence that is not only aware of us, but capable of influencing our technology remotely. The trajectory of 3I, Atlas, further confirms intent. Prior to the signal from the satellites, it was moving along a hyperbolic trajectory at 47 kilometers per second, destined to exit the solar system. After receiving the Earth-originated transmission, Doppler analysis revealed deceleration. The object slowed, changing from a redshift to a blueshift. Objects in the vacuum of space do not slow unless forces are applied. If 3I, Atlas, is natural, it is violating Newton's laws. If technological, it is maneuvering deliberately, responding to our signals. Current models from the Center for Near-Earth Object Studies indicate that it may be entering a high Earth orbit, an orbital insertion rather than a flyby, suggesting the handshake was successful. Every detail of this interaction raises profound questions. How did the object gain the capacity to influence a hardened satellite network from 240 million kilometers away? How did it understand proprietary communication protocols? The energy required to send a signal detectable across that distance is equivalent to a small nuclear reactor. The precision with which the satellites responded shutdown, reorientation, and data transmission demonstrates coordination and understanding that surpasses current human engineering. This is not science fiction. It is a documented chain of cause and effect. The object signals, our technology responds, the trajectory changes, and communication occurs without human intervention. For decades, humanity has speculated about intelligent life elsewhere in the universe. Now, the conversation is no longer hypothetical. We have evidence that an interstellar object is interacting with our systems, and it is doing so with intent and understanding. For the next 72 hours, the world watches. Every radio telescope, every observatory, every orbiting sensor is fixed on 3i, Atlas. Scientists, engineers, and intelligence analysts are racing to interpret the data to understand the object's composition, behavior, and ultimate intentions. Every calculation, every image, and every anomaly will challenge our understanding of physics, engineering, and the very nature of intelligence. The implications extend beyond science. Philosophy, sociology, and even theology are forced to confront a new reality. We are not alone, and our technology can be influenced by forces beyond Earth. What we are witnessing is not just an astronomical event, it is a first contact scenario mediated through our own machines. And as the hours pass, the world waits, knowing that each new piece of data brings us closer to understanding one of the most extraordinary events in human history.